A very good morning, all of you. Kindly excuse me with my throat infection today. Uh, I believe that, allow me to make a statement here, gentlemen, not using the PowerPoint. People use PowerPoint when they don't have any power to talk about it or no points to talk about it. So I decided not to use a PowerPoint today. Just a joke, please. If I just pick up a topic of an ICT in rural development and the e-Panchayat, let me just give you a few examples and bring my thoughts together on the table. We have seen India's growing from the IT perspective from the late 80s and early 90s towards till date now. And all of the growth that we have seen so far is being from the export-oriented. You will be amazed also to relate a relationship between the overall Asian continental growth of export-oriented economy. And that's the reason we have always been emphasized upon looking into the perspective of how we are going to export our services from the IT front, the talent that we had. The journey has created a huge amount of impact for us in the economic growth, huge amount of impact on the urbanization internally, and huge amount of skill development process that we have seen so far. Some effect has been seen on some part of the internal economy also on that. But that's the true story of looking into the IT as a development from the export perspective from India. And if I also include the Asian subcontinent, which includes the Philippines and Vietnam and all, you find the same story. Having said this, let me also picturize some very important one. The shocks that we see around the globe are impacting us. Why? Because our economy is so much export-oriented or interlinked that anything which happens globally has an effect on us. Thus it requires, and I give one statistics, today the total consumption of the Asian subcontinent is $4 trillion. Consumption of the people in this subcontinent. And I estimate, some of the reports have estimated by 2020 or 2030, the consumption of this subcontinent itself would be somewhere around more than $40 trillion, which will be more than 45% of the consumption of the world. Take a pause. This $45 trillion consumption is coming from internal people who are residing in this region. It's a big number. And these people are where these people are. These people are living in India itself. More than 700 million population is staying in the rural areas. This consumption is not going to come only from the urban centers, friends. This demand of these products and services will be coming from the rural area itself in a big way. So out of which, if I just consume the percentage distribution, out of the $50 trillion consumption by 2030, the 70% will come from the rural areas. Imagine, I'm talking about $35 trillion business opportunities for the businesses and the government in terms of getting this demand be serviced. Now coming to this part of, you have an export-oriented economy, global shocks, we are trying to find out. We are trying to find out now solutions saying that, can we look inward? Can we look inward to understand that if we are able to sustain growth internally, these global shocks will not have so much impact on us? One. The second is, there's huge amount of internal demand. Can we now look forward to service those demand? And then, by way, we are actually looking forward to growth. Another statistics, friends. If we use ICT in the real forum, in the real form of its applicability, it actually impacts more than 3% of GDP growth in India. Today we are having 8% of GDP growth with whatever flags that we get from around the world. If we use ICT in a different form for our demands and for capability, there is an increment of 3% GDP growth in India. 11%, friends. That's a big number. Huge amount of 20 million jobs will be created around the country for this. Coming back to another point. So you have export, now you looked into the shocks, you have looked into the areas of internal consumption. Lot of initiatives are taken by the government on this to develop the infrastructure, like the highways. Now I'm not talking about of the roadways, I'm talking about infrastructure in terms of the IT capability. All the states, looking from the infrastructure requirements to give the services of G to C, in fact G to G also, has actually looked into creating a lot of infrastructure development around the country. Mission mode projects from the central government, state level initiatives like the government of Gujarat. Plenty of examples are there. Is this highway, which has been created so far, is actually utilized to its potential? Question mark. We need to answer this. And then we need to also understand, is this highway is really sufficient to cater the demands of the $35 trillion which is coming up on the board? Question mark. We need to answer this. We also need to address very important issue, the inequality. We call it digital divide, friends. Sorry to say, there is no digital divide. The infrastructure is still there. The divide is in terms of the healthcare services. The divide is in terms of the educational services. The divide is in terms of the banking services, the financial services. That's a divide. The digital is a highway which has been created by the various bodies to bridge this gap of divide of various services in kind. How we are doing this exercise is more important. Let me take examples of some of the work which has been done. CSC's job, fantastically promoting infrastructure, entrepreneurship, some of the services. Department of Post Transformation, again, a fantastic job that we're doing done around the country in terms of bringing all the people around coming on board. Talking about of e-Panchayat, which has been now, after the pilot studies, has been gone across the country. What exactly looking into? You have an e-Panchayat, you have a CSC operations, Department of Post Transformation, National Rural Health Mission talking about of village level data coming up on board. Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan is talking about a village level information taking place. All numbers, all databases, all services in different zones. This highway now needs to be optimized properly in terms of understanding the investment which has taken place to create this infrastructure and to optimally utilize the demand which is there upfront in the market. That is where my summation here is that overall when we talk about of ICT as a rural development, and if I talk about e-Panchayat, great words. But the answer here is that this will not solve the problem of serving the demands which is there in the market. We need to converse all these together to utilize the same infrastructure which has been set up now. The infrastructure of highways is used for cars and for trucks and for motorbikes. The same infrastructure needs to be used for healthcare, for education, for the banking, for the financial services, for the other activity which is required for the business. Why we always talk about B to C and G to C? It's C always. B and C, G are combining towards to cater the demand of the C. And this infrastructure can be common to deliver this thing. Broadband, yesterday the Honorable Chief Minister was talking about the broadband, a fantastic number given by the government of Gujarat. Vision is that if we use this type of infrastructure and start using it properly, can we look into of increasing the life expectancy by, let's say, 100%? I know it's very visionary. Can we do that? Can we talk about of 100% population participating in the democracy process, elections? Can we do that? Can we see the dropout rate 0? Let's visualize this. And I believe that once we start visualizing this, once we start looking into the demand in terms of the business perspective, both from the business, from the corporate, and from the public sector, and also look into that if we look into the cohesiveness of bringing these services from the various kinds which have been set up so far, the answer is possible. Not to the extent of my vision, but definitely somewhere we will reach to a conclusion. And that is what true sense will make about how you bridge, using the digital part, how you bridge the different types of gaps altogether. I will pause here with my remarks. Thank you so much.